KWT slaying.
Salam, my family. Salam, how y'all doing today? Hope you're blessed and highly favored. Hope you're having a great Shabbat today. So the Most High, he's a good God, and He loves us very much. And be honest with you, regardless of what anybody says, I'm excited about the times we're in. Now, I do believe that it's dangerous for a lot of people, but for those who walking uprightly, it's a great time. So let's get into this. We're going to hit some familiar verses. Jeremiah 50:28. Listen to the fugitives and refugees from Babylon declaring in Zion how Yahuwah our Elohim has taken vengeance for his temple. So all of this stuff comes into play. All of the scenarios we talked about in the past comes to play. And, what we're going to see is that a lot of the things that's happening in the world is prophetic. And most don't see it. And we've said that before as well. Jeremiah 51:45-50. Come out of her, my people. Run for your lives. Run from the fierce anger of Yahuwah. Do not lose heart or be afraid when rumors are heard in the land. One rumor comes this year, another the next. Rumors of violence in the land. And ruler against ruler. Look, I'm going to tell y'all this. Look, God is good, right? Yahuwah is good. So I was talking to my sister. We were talking about what's happening. She don't necessarily follow the Israelite thing, but she know we're Israel. But we was talking about how Trump, got, got a verdict of guilty, and how the right wing is upset. And we were talking about how the right wing wants to, well, let me say it like this. So we was talking, and she was telling me about how Texas and Louisiana, Florida, and some of these places are passing laws against us. And so, like, if you protest, right, it makes it easier for the police officers to pew you, or shall we say delete you, right, with no repercussions, which they don't really have any anyway. But we've noticed that with the way that nobody would, for the most part, go to jail, and how they get away with murder and murking people. Let's say it like that, murking people, and they pass all the laws against us. So, and like she was saying, we was having this conversation, and they're planning for a civil war. They're planning for a separation. So this would line up with what we see here. For the time will surely come when I will punish the idols, right? So let me go back up. It says, do not lose heart or be afraid when rumors are heard in the land. One rumor comes this year, another the next. Rumors of violence in the land, and ruler against ruler. So, can we say civil war, right? Everything is lining up right now. Some people are going to tell you ain't nothing to see here, move on, but anyway. For the time will surely come when I will punish the idols of Babylon for her for her whole land will be disgraced, and her slain will all lie fallen within her. Then heaven and earth and all that is in them will shout for joy over Babylon, for out of the north destroyers will attack her, declares Yahuwah. Oh, look, with this Russia thing, I'm going to share one article today later, but this is a trip. I'm telling you, all these prophecies coming to pass. Babylon will fall because of Israel's slain. Why is Babylon going to fall? Because what they're doing to us, and they're passing these laws against us to make it easier to delete us, right? And so, they already told you Texas is going to secede. We know Florida, Mississippi, Louisiana, right? And they're passing all these laws against us, right? But so the Most High says, Babylon gonna fall because of Israel slain, just as the slain and all the earth have fallen because of Babylon. So Babylon then, deleted a whole bunch of people across the world, and not just Israel, but the whole world slain. So the Most High gonna deal with them. I'm telling you, I don't see how people don't see these prophecies. But anyway, let's continue. You who have escaped the sword, leave and do not linger. Remember Yahuwah in a distant land and call to mind Jerusalem. Now, some people call this flea doctrine, right? You can call it whatever you want. It's in the Bible, right? Yes or no? See, that's what all I got to say is, you can say whatever you want. You can call it flea doctrine. You can call it whatever you want. But my point is it in the Bible? Give me one if flee is in the Bible. I just read it. So here, there's a lot of things coming together of the prophecies of the destruction of Babylon and us having to leave. Okay. Revelation 12, 6 through 14. The woman fled into the wilderness to a place prepared for her by Yahuwah, where she might be taken care of for 1,260 days. So she goes into the wilderness to be protected for 1,260 days, or 3.5 years, they say, right? Then war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back. Now, I remember in the other show, I was telling you about that, how what we see on the earth is reflected in the spirit realm in heaven, right? Like the Prince of Persia. So what's happening on the earth between the West, NATO countries, and what's happening with Russia and China is all prophetic. It's all spiritual as well as physical, right? So as we saw in the book of Daniel, they had a prince over them called the Prince of Persia, right? Which was an angel. That's what we call them, right? Some, translations say sons of God, whatever. Or the watchers, you could call them the watchers, right? But he was not strong enough, and they lost their place in heaven. The great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. He was hurled to the earth, and his angels with him. Then I heard a loud voice in heaven say, now have come the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God. So there's a war in heaven, and there's a nation from the north that attacks Babylon, and we get delivered, right? So now have salvation and power in the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Messiah. For the accuser of our brothers and sisters who accuses them before Yahuwah day and night has been hurled down. They triumph over him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. They did not love their lives so much as to shrink from death. Therefore rejoice, you heavens, and you who dwell in them. But woe to the earth and the sea, because the devil has gone down to you. He is filled with fury because he knows he has a short time. Verse 13, when the dragon saw that he had been hurled to the earth, he pursued the woman who had given birth to the male child. The woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle so that she might fly to the place prepared for her in the wilderness, where she would be taken care of for a time and a half a time out of the serpent's reach. So she's taken out from wherever she was to a place of safety in the wilderness. Can we say refugees, aka flea doctrine, as some of y'all want to call it? So she's taken out as refugees from the places she was, the woman representing Israel, to protect them. Now, here's the dynamic of what I'm going to talk about today. Will the United Nations bring us home? Some people are going to say, no, not the United Nations, because that's the devil's system, right? It's the beast system. No, it's not the United Nations, because there's no way they would help us to get out of here, right? That's human logic, right? That's human logic. It's sort of like saying during the first Exodus, would the Egyptians help us leave? No. Why would the Egyptians help us leave? Well, the Egyptians had no choice, right? The Egyptians gave them food, right? We robbed them of all their gold and silver and wealth, right? And their horses and carriages, and took it all with us. Did they want to give it? No. They had to give it. Then later on, after they gave us all the food and the stuff to leave and the carriages and all these things in order to go, here come Pharaoh to say, you know what? I changed my mind. Let's go kill them all and bring some of them back. Same thing. The Most High going to use your enemies to deliver you. And if you think about it, that's what the Bible teaches, right? Because who's our enemy? Come on now, let's be serious. Who's our enemy? The whole world, right? Psalm 83. So let's assume Israel wanted to go home by themselves. Could Israel logistically remove themselves from the land of their captivity? Well, God could do anything. Yes, he can. He can also get your enemies to bring you back. So, you know, a lot of people go through the fleshly psychological evaluation of whether or not they would do these things for us. No, they have no choice. You see. And if you watch the prophecies and read the prophecies, you will see that the Most High orchestrates the steps of his people, and he gets your enemies to bless you when they don't want to. What did he say? I will even make your enemies, what? Come on now, be at peace with you. That don't mean they're going to stay at peace with you. But like I say, you ain't got to agree with nothing I say today. I'm telling you what I see. That's what I do here. I tell you what I see. You ain't got to agree. So we had this situation where our people are in the land of our captivity. And there's plans and subterfuge and stuff to delete us. According to their statistics, the black man, the Negro, the African Americans, by 2050 going to have zero wealth. How does that happen? But at the same time, there's multiple things happening in the world that portends our deliverance from all of this. So as we saw, you know, the woman goes into the wilderness. Can we say from the lands that you are out into other nations, other lands? Can we say, once again, refugees? You who have escaped the sword, leave and do not linger. Remember Yahuwah in a distant land. Can we say refugees? Jeremiah 50:28. Listen to the fugitives and what? The refugees. Y'all call it flea doctrine. The refugees from Babylon. That means you running. If you look at the news, and like I was mentioning in the beginning, what's happening behind the scenes, because some of y'all just don't keep up on the news. These people are plotting our demise. I'm not talking about the average palm-colored person. I'm talking about the leadership. I'm talking about the Trump followers. I'm talking about the leadership of the government. They're planning our demise. Why do you think the migrants are being sent into Chicago, a majority black area? Because they're planning our demise. I told you they're going to push you out. So anyway, we talked about this in the past, and I've been looking at some things, and I've been seeing how the migration thing is a global plan. It is a world governmental plan. Now the question is this: with the migration efforts that's happening from the Americas into the United States of America, why are they doing this? Why is it happening? Why is the United Nations involved? Right? So there's a plan, there's a process, there's a script being followed, and you're not included in it. Y'all remember let me say it this way so I don't get in trouble. The Revelation 2:9 and 3:9 guy who said, in the world to come, we're not included. Do y'all remember that? Give me a 1 if you remember that. Give me a 2 if you don't. Of the Revelation 2:9 and 3:9 guy who said, you black folks, you Negroes, you African Americans, y'all ain't going to be included in this world to come. That's what he said. So the question is, how do you exclude us? How do you plan to exclude us from the world to come? How are you going to do this? And then if you get rid of us, don't you have to replace us? I know you got your robots, but they're not in place yet, right? So they're positioning the pieces. But the scripture says the trap that they have for you, they're going to fall in. The ones who trying to destroy you, going to be destroyed. So when they're planning your demise, the Most High is planning your rise. When they're planning to delete you, the Most High is planning to give you life. When they're planning to curse you, the Most High is planning to bless you.
Unbeknownst to most people, the UN, the United Nations, is actively helping and supporting the millions of migrants coming up through Central America, making their way to the US. Because you see, if you happen to be a migrant in South America and your goal is to make it to the United States, well, there are many different paths that you can take. South America is a huge continent, and depending on where you start from, there are many different routes that you can take to go up north. However, if you look at a map, you'll notice that all those different routes reach a choke point. This choke point is located near the border of Colombia and Panama, and it's called the Darien Gap. It's an area of land so inhospitable that building roads or building infrastructure there is nearly impossible, meaning it's a lawless area that you really want to avoid at all costs. But if you're a migrant coming to America, you have to go through this treacherous stretch of land.
So one note, if anything happens to this stream, just go over to Rumble. Okay? Just go over to Rumble. Tell Ministries on Rumble if anything happens.
In order to make your way up north, which is exactly why you see upwards of 10,000 people per day crossing the Darien Gap. But what's truly unexpected is what these migrants see after crossing over. The United Nations and their affiliated NGOs are waiting there in Panama on the other side of the gap, giving out food, prepaid cards, maps, as well as bus rides that take them from Panama all the way through Central America, all the way through Mexico, and up into the US via the US southern border. And so our team here at the Epoch Times, we went down there to Panama, to the area right after the Darien Gap, to expose exactly what the UN is up to down there. The culmination of that journey was this documentary right here called Weapons of Mass Migration. It's a phenomenal short film, and if you want to check it out, I'll throw a link to it. It'll be right there at the top of the description box below.
So based upon what you're seeing there, the United Nations is, preparing them to come into the United States. Now, think about what's happening. The United Nations is managing a huge, what? Worldwide global migration. Come on. If you understand where I'm going with this, right? The United Nations is managing a worldwide global migration of what? Refugees. Now they're coming from the Americas and around the world to the United States. Now, when all of this flips, is going to be the United Nations managing another worldwide migration from all the lands of our captivity back to Africa. Now, we're not going to necessarily go directly to Africa because look what's happening now. So, like if you're in Ecuador, you go, from Ecuador to, let's say Panama, and then from Panama to the U.S., right? Or wherever you're at, you're coming from China, you go to China to Chile, and from Chile to Panama, and from Panama to the U.S., right? So there will be stops along the way. That's why we're going to be in the wilderness. So a lot of these people that's coming, they come in from these other nations, and they're in the wilderness. Some of them are in the Darien Gap. Now, this is a migration into the Horde. But then there's coming the migration out of the Horde and all the other nations, right?
United States, there's 5 separate nations, right? After you leave Panama, there's Costa Rica, then you get to Nicaragua, Honduras, Guatemala, and that's all before then you reach Mexico. I guess my 2 questions would be, one, why did these nations sign on to the global compact at all? Like, what was in it for them? And B, why are they allowing their country to be used in this route?
Yeah, so that was one of the questions I had as well. And so in the documentary, we actually got an interview, a very hard to get interview with the former head of Senefront, right? This is the guy in charge of the whole show. And even though he's a former position on that, he's still an advisor to the president. So, this is a top level official in Panama who's at the head of the organization on the Panama side that's kind of, having to deal with it. They raised some concerns, including they believe that the NGOs and the United Nations are undermining the sovereignty of their own country. They say that if they, for example, begin enforcing laws, that the NGOs or the UN, they sue them. They get sued by them. If, for example, they're running security operations and they have to kill like a gang member or something like that, which, happens. In fact, we have footage of one of the incidents. If, for example, you have cartel members in the Darien Gap raping, killing, and robbing, Senefront will go in there and, of course, fight back. If they overstep any boundaries, the NGOs or the UN will go after Senefront.
So think of this. It's a dialectic, right? But remember what the scripture says about when the woman leaves, she flees into the wilderness, and then the dragon comes after her, right, to try to handle her, and then God opens up the earth to swallow them. We're seeing this, right? Like, they're coming from Mexico or whatever, and they're dealing with all of these enemies. And so the UN has to protect them. But we know that the United Nations is, the beast, or part of the beast system or the international order. But you got to pay attention that, the Most High use who he will. So, don't use the human logic on me, right? I'm going by what I see and what I think is going to happen, and some logic, right? Because you still got to understand there has to be a system in place to manage the migration of millions of Israelites around the world. There has to be a mechanism of logistics to handle our return. You can't just throw it out there like some people saying, God gonna send angels and we're gonna be teleported on the continent. That type of foolishness. So UFOs gonna come and beam us up, Scotty, and land us back on the continent, right? That type of stupid stuff, right? But anyway, let's continue.
And so some of these organizations say that they're concerned of these groups, these globalist groups, even, for example, members of it running in their elections and gaining positions of power. They're concerned about their own sovereignty. And for a lot of them, that they believe it's undermining their sovereignty. In terms of the interest, I don't know. That was a question I was not able to get. And that was something I did ask. In terms of like, hey, what do you get out of it? I don't know. What we can say is they get a lot of money. because of course, as people travel through, they're being given money from the United Nations. Sorry, they're giving money through the United Nations, but through U.S. government policies. We actually discussed some of the payment programs, for example, in the documentary. They give them, for example, envelopes full of cash, literal envelopes of money, or they give them these prepaid cards. And they'll argue they're not debit cards because they have limited use, but they look like debit cards. And, of course, we have footage of it as well.
What can they be used?
All right. So once again, the question is this. Does not the scripture teach? Come on now. We come out with what? Great substance. Right? Now, how is that going to be managed in modern society? Are we going to leave with wagons of gold and wagons of silver? Or will we have prepaid debit cards? And if we do have money, where we're going to get the money from? Who controls the finance? Who controls the money? The world government, the United Nations, the Gentile, right? Now, if you try to leave with a bunch of gold and a bunch of silver, and you carried it on the planes, and you put it in your bags on the ships and on the planes, good luck having that, because you're gonna have to put it in storage. Good luck having that once you land on the continent. It's gonna be gone. See, but in the modern society, you're gonna have a prepaid debit card. More than likely, it's gonna be digital currency. But I'm just saying, you gotta pay attention with what's happening. You gotta pay attention with what the scripture says.
They say it can only be used at certain approved shops, and so they limit where you can spend it at. But there's different claims on how accurate that actually is. That some people say you can spend it anywhere, and they also do just give them envelopes full of money. And so, for example, in the Embera village, we asked the Embera Indians. That was the village you saw just on the mouth of the Darien Gap. It's an Indian village, the Embera Indians, and so they bring the illegal aliens on these boats. They call them piraguas, and they bring them to the Embera Indian village, which has been converted into this migrant camp. That is normally an Indian village, as are several of the camps actually. And of course, United Nations has set up shop there.
Okay, so imagine you're in the wilderness, you're a refugee, you're in tents, right? And you got gold with you. That's just not sustainable. You can't do it, right? It's gonna disappear. You're gonna be robbed. It's gonna be taken. But if you got your card, that's different. And we're gonna talk about what the Bible says about who brings us back, right? You got to use logic. Now, some people say, who wants the digital currency? I don't want that. I don't want the digital currency. I don't want the fiat. Give me the gold. You're not going to be able to bring gold. You know how much money they owe us? If you had gold and you had silver, you know how heavy that's going to be to ship across the world? And guess what? If you did have to ship it, it'd have to be shipped outside of your presence, because you ain't gonna be able to ship it on no boat or no plane with you. It's too heavy. It's impossible. The only way to get your money is gonna be electronically. That's the world we're in. That's common sense, folks. That's common sense. You cannot carry a bag of silver and a bag of gold and all that. Do you know how much gold and silver you would have to carry? It's impossible. And just think, all of us, there's millions and millions of descendants of slaves, millions and millions of Israelites going to be carrying millions and millions of gold and millions of silver. Come on, y'all. Let's use some common sense, even though I know common sense ain't common. I'm just saying, we got to think about how this thing going to play. How's it might play out. Logically speaking, we're going to get a card, all right?
They have the facilities. And of course, you have Senafront doing security. We were talking to the Indians on how much they charge. They're charging $75 per head to, again, get on the piragua from the Darien Gap to that particular Indian village. And, you count it, they're making $7,000, $10,000 a day per piragua, per one. And so for them, they're making insane amounts of money in a very poor area. And so, economically, they're benefiting from it. Then, of course, the illegal aliens, they pay for the buses. I don't know about all the countries, but at least in Panama, the buses aren't free. If you want to hop that bus and get a ride to Costa Rica, going through Panama, you have to pay them. There were people saying they were stranded because they didn't have the money to pay for the bus. They said we're stuck in the camp. You might have seen in the documentary, there were people on the other side of the fence who were saying, you know, that they live in the toilet, was their own words. And they said that there's these vultures there that were like trying to like bite children and stuff. Like, you know, they were really worried actually. But we talked to Centerfront. They said, well, they'll keep them there for a while and eventually they'll let them go anyways. But there's money involved and they get a lot of money from these individuals.
Oh, so that's fascinating. So what you're saying, because I thought, okay, out of these 5 nations, maybe Mexico is a bit difficult because it's so big, and I mean, their federalist government is very weak. So I mean, you could, you know, theoretically say, well, the cartels are doing it because it's outside of the purview of the federal government. Okay, but then like Nicaragua, you know, Costa Rica, like I thought all it would take would be one nation to just say, hey, enough of this.
So on that note, Nicaragua is not part of the Global Compact for Migration. What we were told is that in Nicaragua, there's human trafficking organizations that handle their route. And so rather...
All right. So they talk about what's happening with the current migration effort and how the United Nations is being used to manage this migration. Now, if the United Nations is managing this migration now, right, it makes logical sense for the United Nations to manage our migration or our refugee status, which y'all call flea doctrine, right, back to the continent. Now, with all of this happening and all the other prophetic scenarios, you know, the war with Russia, the kingdom from the north, and the whole thing with China and what's about to pop off, you know, with the nukes and stuff, right? You know, hopefully we all make it out alive, but it all has to come together and like I would say in the past, build this puzzle, this picture puzzle. So as he mentioned, there's the Global Compact for Migration, right? The Global Compact for Migration. So the Global Compact for Migration is the first intergovernmentally negotiated agreement prepared under the auspices of the United Nations to cover all dimensions of international migration in a holistic and comprehensive manner. So the United Nations is managing the migration of all these people, right? So this exists right now. The foundation or the framework is in place already to handle massive migrations of people from multiple countries to another country, right? Logically speaking, this will be the same system in place to manage our exodus. Today, there are over 258 million migrants around the world living outside their country of birth. This figure is expected to grow for a number of reasons, including population growth, increasing connectivity, trade, rising inequality, demographic imbalances, and climate change. Migration provides immense opportunity and benefits for the migrants, host communities, and communities of origin. However, when poorly regulated, it can create significant challenges. These challenges include overwhelming social infrastructures with the unexpected arrival of large numbers of people and the deaths of migrants undertaking dangerous journeys. So add to this the upcoming potential for civil war. Add to this the hatred that the right-wing Christians and the right-wing establishment has for the Negroes, right? AKA African Americans, AKA true Hebrew Israelites. So we will be in a refugee situation which requires us to be what? Removed from danger. Where else would we go? The continent. In September 2016, the General Assembly decided through the adoption of the New York Declaration for Refugees and Migrants to develop a global compact for safe, orderly, and regular migration. So how do you think we're going to get out of here? Has to be a global framework to handle logistics. The process to develop this global compact started in April 2017. The pages in this section detail 18 months of consultation and negotiation and provide the relevant documentation for each of the events. On July 13, 2018, UN members finalized the text for the Global Compact for Safe, orderly and regular migration. Now, how many of you all heard about the Global Compact for migration? Give me one if you heard about it, two if you didn't, because most of us didn't. I didn't know about it. So things were happening, plans were in place for migration from these countries to the whore of Babylon. So as we see right now, there's a migration effort happening to the United States. And there's, in my opinion, a planned migration of the Negroes, the Hebrew Israelites. Now, you got Gentiles out there who think they Israel. Right? You got Gentiles out there who think they Israel. They think the prophecies fit them. And I'm like, okay, I don't see these prophecies fitting you, but okay. Global Compact. The Global Compact for Migration is the first ever UN global agreement on a common approach to international migration in all its dimensions. The Global Compact is non-legally binding. It is grounded in values of state sovereignty, responsibility sharing, non-discrimination, and human rights, and recognizes that a cooperative approach is needed to optimize the overall benefits of migration while addressing its risks and challenges for individuals and communities in countries of origin, transit, and destination. As I was saying, who is organized to handle a second exodus? Who has the system and the people in place to handle a second exodus? Who has the money, the finances to handle a second exodus? Who has the means to shelter and feed you as you return back to the continent? The Global Compact comprises 23 objectives for better managing migration at local, national, regional, and global levels. The Compact aims to mitigate the adverse drivers and structural factors that hinder people from building and maintaining sustainable livelihoods in their countries of origin. Intends to reduce the risk and vulnerabilities migrants face at different stages of migration by respecting, protecting, and fulfilling their human rights and providing them with care and assistance. Seeks to address the legitimate concerns of states and communities while recognizing that societies are undergoing demographic, economic, social, and environmental changes at different scales that may have implications for and result from migration. Strives to create conducive conditions that enable all migrants to enrich our societies through their human, economic, and social capacities, thus facilitates their contributions to sustainable development at the local, national, regional, and global levels. So with the Global Compact, you have a system in place for world migration. Is that not what the second exodus is, family? Yes or no? Give me a yes or no. Is not the second exodus global migration? That's what it is. And the system is in place to handle a global migration, or what we call the second exodus.
Migration has always been with us. And climate change, demographics, instability, growing inequalities, and aspirations for a better life, as well as unmet needs in labor markets, mean it is here to stay. And the answer is effective international cooperation in managing migration to ensure that its benefits are most widely distributed and that the human rights of all concerned are properly protected.
Let me begin with this reminder. While most migration is well managed and undertaken through regular channels, not all people wanting to migrate find a suitable channel to do so. Irregular migration, with all its inherent risks, is related to the lack of regular and safe pathways.
You and I are people. Migrants are people. Regardless of passports or visas, we all have the same fears and hopes. And as human beings, we are entitled to the same fundamental rights, no matter where we are or why we are there.
In today's world, all societies are becoming multicultural, multi-ethnic, and multi-religious. And this diversity must be seen as a richness, not as a threat. But to make diversity a success, we need to invest in social cohesion, so that all people feel that their identities are respected and that they have a stake in the community as a whole.
So doesn't it make sense that we're already seeing the system in place to handle our exodus? Or in the modern parlance, migration. Like I said, we have to use common sense, although common sense ain't always common.
The Accra Proclamation on Reparations was adopted at the International Conference on Building a United Front to advance the cause of justice and reparations to Africans, held in Accra, Ghana from November 14-17, 2023. The key commitments and recommendations include establishment of a global reparations fund based in Africa and supported by multilateral institutions and agencies aligned with the reparatory justice agenda. Operationalization of proposed and existing multi-stakeholder initiatives, including an African Committee of Experts on Reparations and an AU Diaspora Program of Action to realize reparations. Resourcing and strengthening civil society-led actions and promoting a global African reparatory justice campaign devoid of duplication of efforts. Undertaking social, cultural, political, and economic actions guided by the conference deliberations to advance the reparations agenda. The proclamation reaffirmed the profound and lasting impacts of slavery, colonialism, and racial discrimination on Africans and people of African descent, underscoring reparations as a moral and legal imperative rooted in justice, human rights, and dignity. It built on previous AU efforts like the 2022 Accra Summit on reparations and healing.
So not only do we have the whole migration thing happening and the logistics set up for us to leave, right? And the means for us to survive as we leave, right? To feed us, to shelter us, to eat. As I said, it's going to be done by the B system, but the question is, why would the B system allow that? Why would they be a part of it? Because the Most High said so. He's making them however the Most High is making them do it. He's the one behind it.
A call for compensation to help right the wrongs of the transatlantic slave trade, in the place where about 10 million people were taken more than 400 years ago and shipped to the Americas. For more than a century, Ghana was the center of the British slave trade. Now, its president, Nana Akufo-Addo, is at the forefront of Africa's push for redress. Akufo-Addo opened a reparations conference in Accra this week, stressing the need for a united front and a global action plan to address the legacies of slavery and colonization.
No amount of money can restore the damage caused by the transatlantic slave trade and its consequences, which will span many centuries. But surely, this is a matter that the world must confront and can no longer ignore.
Political leaders, academics, legal experts, and rights activists from across Africa came together to discuss the impacts of historical injustices, from colonialism and slavery, as well as the way forward for Africans and peoples of African descent around the world. Western leaders, in breaking with previous narratives, have moved to acknowledge the wrongs of slavery and the colonial era in Africa. Many European museums have begun repatriating stolen artifacts to African countries. But their willingness to pay reparations remain frustratingly vague for African leaders today, as many countries have yet to acknowledge their true roles in colonial Africa. So far, only Germany has agreed to pay specific reparations for its role in the 4 years genocide of the Ova Herero and Nama peoples in Namibia during the early 1900s. President Akufo-Addo also used the conference to build bridges with Caribbean leaders grappling with the legacy of slavery.
The effects of the slave trade have been devastating to the continent and to the African diaspora. The entire period of slavery meant that our progress, economically, culturally, and psychologically, was stifled.
Leaders are expected to create action plans and committees to implement Africa's action plan for reparation.
So the question is, and I know a lot of you have problems with Akufo-Addo like I do, right? Akufo-Addo like I do. Anyway, understand it. Akufo is part of the globalist agenda, and he doesn't do anything of his own. What you have to realize is that the reason why Akufo is doing this, the reason why the African Union is involved, is because the United Nations have already decided to give us reparations. I know you don't believe me. Why do you think California, New York, all these other states and cities are talking about giving Negroes, descendants of slaves, the true Hebrew Israelites, reparations? Because it's already been decided. There, just as we saw with the migration effort, and we didn't know anything about the global compact of migration, right? Most people don't know that it has already been decided that we're going to get reparations. We're going home. It's already been decided. Well, the Most High decided it. But the way that they're moving, right? They're moving in terms of someone controlling the ability of Black folks, descendants of slaves, to get reparations. I mean, obviously, right now, I didn't play all of the video, in the beginning that you saw from the Facts Matter with Roman Bamakov. But towards the end, they talked about what's happening. And I've mentioned it before. And what they said, right, because that's the same guy who's in charge and control of Epic Times, if you know of Epic Times. What's happening is that, according to them, is that the United Nations is making way for a multipolar world order with shared rule. They're getting away from the unipolar world order. Now, these two white guys who say that. Okay? Not Yacoba. They said it. So, and we know that's the truth because we got BRICS and all this stuff that's happening. So, if anybody understands the prophecies, because a lot of people don't, they believe a lot of BS other people teach, but if you believe the prophecies of a whore that controls the beast, which is the international order world governmental system, that whore is the unipolar world order, aka United States, NATO, G7, stuff like that. And today, as we look at history and we see what's happening, that order is coming to an end. Even the Gentiles are saying that America's over. They say that the unipolar world order is at an end. That's what they say. And that a multipolar world order is in the making. All at the same time, there's huge migration efforts happening and the talk of reparations and stuff. I don't know. You don't have to be a genius to see the prophecies coming to pass. All if you don't see it, then, that's your business. I just figure the ones who can't see it, not meant to see it. That's how it is. But as we move along the prophetic timeline and these things are coming to pass real rapidly, we're going to see that the nations are going to send us home. Like I said, you don't have to agree. See, isn't that beautiful? We have free will. Back to Isaiah 60. Now we're going to look at this from a different viewpoint. Arise and shine, for your light is coming. The glory of Yahuwah rises upon you. See, darkness covers the earth, and thick darkness is over the people. But Yahuwah rises upon you, and his glory appears over you. Nations will come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your dawn. Who? Nations. Can we say United Nations? Nations. Nations. Not one nation. Can we say United Nations? Nations will come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your dawn. Lift up your eyes and look about you. All assemble and come to you. Your sons come from afar, and your daughters are carried on the hip. Then you will look and be radiant. Your heart will throb and swell with joy. The wealth of the seas will be brought to you. To you, the riches of the nations. Can we say United Nations? How are we going to get the money of the nations? How are we going to get all the wealth of the nations? Got to come through a single entity that manages the finances and the money and the distribution and the goods. Logic, common sense. Herds of camels will cover your land, young camels of Median and Ephah. And all of the Sheba will come bearing gold and incense and proclaiming the praises of Yahuwah. So if we do get gold, they're going to bring gold. They're going to bring it to us. Because guess what? Like every time we turn on the television, we look at what's happening in Africa. What they do? Find another thing of gold, a rock of gold, a thing of gold here and a gold there. Look, we got a ton of gold on the continent. We don't have to carry gold with us. Now, let's come on now. Really? We got so much gold on the continent, we don't have to carry gold with us. Come on, does that not make sense? Does it not make sense, fam? What we need to bring gold with us for if we got a ton of gold under our feet? I'm just saying. I mean, just me. All Kedor's flocks will be gathered to you. The rams of Naboth will serve you. They will be accepted as offerings on mine altar, and I will adorn my glorious temple. Who are these that fly along like clouds, like doves to their nest? Surely the islands look to me. In the lead are the ships of Tarshish, bringing your children from afar with the silver and gold. Now, this is money, right? In my opinion. Now, does that mean some people won't come back with silver and gold? I'm not going to say that. I'm just saying every single one of us not coming back with silver and gold. Like, let's say you got some people coming from the Middle East, all right? Let's say they're coming from Qatar or something. Maybe they're going to come with silver and gold. What about some of the brothers and sisters in Brazil? Maybe they're going to come with some silver and gold, but most of us not. I mean, you literally just can't move that much silver and gold. I mean, let alone not have it taken from you. So I contend my position that this is really just money, wealth, right? But, I could be proven wrong. To the honor of Yahuwah, your Elohim, the Holy One of Israel, for he has endowed you with splendor. Foreigners will rebuild your walls. Now, how do you get foreigners to rebuild your walls? Can we say United Nations? They got the building thing, the thing for helping, disadvantaged communities and building United Nations homes. I'm like, they got everything in place. Foreigners will rebuild your walls, and their kings will serve you. Though in anger I struck you, In favor, I will show you compassion. Your gates will always stand open. They will never be shut day or night, so that people may bring you the wealth of the nations. How do they bring you the wealth of the nations? Is France going to come there and bring you money, and Germany going to bring you money, and Portugal going to bring you money, and the islands going to bring you? You know what I'm saying? How is that going to be managed? See, in a modern society, it's managed through institutions, it's managed through corporations, it's managed through organizations, just like we saw with the Kufa-Adu and the African Union. What did they say they want to do? They want to manage our money, right? Did you not hear that? Now, I don't really want nobody managing my money, but I'm like, if I get my money, I don't really care. But why do they want to be in the position, the African Union, the Kufa-Adu and them, why is he talking to manage reparations? Because reparations is going to be given. It don't matter what them palm colored folks say. It don't matter what the right-wing Christians say. Reparations is already decided. Well, the Most High decided it, but in the end, it's already decided. For the nation and kingdom that will not serve you will perish, it will be utterly ruined. So the kings, well, let me go back up. Their kings led in triumphal procession. For the nation and kingdom that will not serve you will perish, it will be utterly ruined. So the kings, how do the kings gonna bring us wealth? So when the three kings, that's what they call them, right? Or the magi, right? Which was really more than three, but that's what they say. When the magi brought Yeshua stuff, right? They had to carry that stuff and bring it and drop it all to Yeshua. Now, this is I'm telling you, the symbologies and the reflections and the types and shadows is mind-boggling, right? So with the birth of a nation, right? Consider us little babies. The kings are going to bring us the gold, the silver, the incense, the goods, right? The modern day magi going to be bringing us stuff like they brought the Messiah. Now, like I say, I got a teaching I'm going to go through that's going to show the typology between, and a lot of similarities between what the Messiah has done and what happened to him and what happens to his people. We're going to talk about that. The glory of Lebanon will come to you, the juniper, the fir, and the cypress together to adorn my sanctuary. And I will glorify the place for my feet. The children of your oppressors will come bowing before you. All who despise you will bow down at your feet and will call you the city of Yahuwah, Zion, the Holy One of Israel. So you Gentiles who think you Israel, how do you fit any of these prophecies? How are you going back to a place that you were taken captive from? I'm just asking. Although you have been forsaken and hated, with no one travailing through, I will make you the everlasting pride and the joy of all generations. You will drink the milk of nations and be nursed at raw breast. How is this managed? It has to be managed through a system. That system is in place, and it's the world governmental system. It's the United Nations. It's the current international order. We are already in an international order. It's just that this international order is run by the whore. Now it's going to be run by the 10. Then you will know that I, Yahuwah, am your Savior, your Redeemer, the mighty one of Jacob. Instead of bronze, I will bring you gold, and silver in place of iron. Instead of wood, I will bring you bronze, and iron in the place of stones. I will make peace your governor and well-being your ruler. No longer will violence be heard in your land, nor ruin or destruction within your borders, but you will call your wall salvation. So this shows you right now, the Middle East ain't our land, and those people in the Middle East ain't the true people. This alone ain't no peace there, right? Anyway, the sun will no more be your light by day, nor will the brightness of the moon shine on you, for Yahuwah will be your everlasting light. So this goes into the new creation and the new heavens and the new earth and all that when Yeshua comes down and he's our light. So I'm gonna stop there and move on. Isaiah 49, 8-26. This is what Yahuwah says. In the time of my favor, I will answer you. And in the day of salvation, I will help you. I will keep you and will make you to be a covenant for the people, to restore the land and to reassign its desolate inheritances. To reassign the desolate inheritance. See, this is our inheritance. See, this is why I told you when you do certain things, you can lose your inheritance, right? To say to the captives, can we say slaves? To say to the captives, come out, and to those in darkness, be free. Can we say flea doctrine? That's what y'all want to call it? Because if you deny the flea doctrine, you deny the scripture. Y'all call it flea doctrine. I just say we gonna be refugees. They will feed beside the roads and find pasture on every barren hill. They will neither hunger nor thirst, nor will the desert heat or the sun beat down on them. He who has compassion on them will guide them and lead them beside springs of water. I will turn all my mountains into roads, and my highways will be raised up. See, they will come from afar, some from the north, some from the west, some from the region of Aswan. Shout for joy, you heavens, rejoice, you earth, burst into song, you mountains. For Yahuwah comforts his people and will have compassion on his afflicted ones. See, Israel has been afflicted. Why? Because they've been held captive. Gentiles who think you're Israel, how does that fit for you? Verse 14, but Zion said, Yahuwah has forsaken me. Yahuwah has forgotten me. Can a mother forget the baby at her breast and have no compassion on the child she has born? Though she may forget, I will not forget you. See, I have engraved you on the palms of my hands. Your walls are ever before me. Your children hasten back, and those who laid you waste depart from you. Lift up your eyes and look around. All your children gather and come to you. As surely as I live, declares Yahuwah, you will wear them as ornaments. You will put them on like a bride. So how do we logistically get all these people from around the world back home? They brought us over here on ships. They logistically moved us on ships, trade, selling. They got to bring us back. How do they do that? They're the ones that took us from there. Now they're the ones that's going to bring us back. How do you manage that? Through a United Nations effort that we already see is well in place. Though you were ruined and made desolate and your land waste, now you will be too small for your people, and those who devoured you will be far away. The children born during your bereavement will yet say in your hearing, this place is too small for us. Give us more space to live in. Then you will say in your heart, who bore me these? Where they come from? I was bereaved and barren. I was exiled and rejected. They weren't here no more. They were in slavery around the world. I was exiled and rejected. Who brought these up? I was left all alone, but these, where have they come from? This is what the sovereign Lord says. See, I will beckon to the nations. Can we say United Nations, world order, international order? It all ties into Revelation. Who's in control during the time of the book of Revelation? Are we not in the book of Revelation? Yes or no? Yes or no? Give me a yes or no. Are we not in the book of Revelation? And if we are in the book of Revelation, what governmental system is in power in the book of Revelation? It is an international order. See, I will beckon to the United Nations. Let's say that. I will beckon to the United Nations because the United Nations represents all the nations of the world. The United Nations represents all the nations of the world. And if we're in the time of the book of Revelation, then it is this international order called the United Nations that's in control. Currently, it's ruled by the whore. What's coming is that she's going to be ruled by the 10 horns. Or what we say, multipolar order. See, I will beckon to the nations. I will lift up my banner to the people. They will bring your sons. Who's going to bring your sons? The nations. How are they going to do this? Is it going to be France by themselves, Germany by themselves, Britain by themselves? No, it's the United Nations because we're in the last days. We're in the book of Revelation. So therefore, by logic, by consequence of using our cabezas, it has to be the United Nations. See, I will beckon to the nations. I will lift up my banner to the peoples. They will bring your sons in their arms and carry your daughters on their hips. Kings will be your foster fathers and queens your nursing mothers. They will bow down before you with their faces to the ground. They will lick the dust at your feet. Then you will know that I am Yahuwah. Those who hope in me will not be disappointed. Can plunder be taken from warriors, or captives be rescued from the fears? Who? Captives. Come on, Gentiles. Are you held captives? The ones of you who think that the Christian church is the true Israelites today. They ain't no more Jew and Gentile. That's what y'all keep saying. But anyway, can plunder be taken from warriors? Can plunder be taken from warriors? Who was plundered? Come on now. Who was plundered? Or captives be rescued from their fear? So they were plundered and they were held as slaves or captives. Come on, who else can this be but the Negroes, the descendants of slaves? You know, you can lie to yourself, but don't lie to me. But this is what Yahuwah says. Yes, captives will be taken from warriors and plunder retrieved from the fears. I will contend with those who contend with you, and your children I will save. I will make your oppressors eat their own flesh. They will be drunk on their own blood as with wine. Then all mankind will know that I, Yahuwah, am your Savior, your Redeemer, the mighty one of Jacob. So here's what we got. We got captives being taken from those who held them captive. The Most High said He's going to do it. But He also says it's going to be the nations who bring us back. How does that work? We have today the logistical operations in place to move migrants of multiple people around the world back to one location. Currently, it's coming to the Hor. It's going to be reversed from the Hor and all the other places back to Africa. Come on, Don. Is that not logical? To me, it's just clear as day, right? Isaiah 11:11. In that day, Yahuwah will reach out His hand a second time to reclaim the surviving remnant of His people from Assyria, from Lower Egypt, from Upper Egypt, from Cush, from Elam, from Babylon, from Hamath, and from the islands of the Mediterranean. So all these people coming from all these places got to be handled logistically in the modern society, because we're all across the globe. We're literally all across the globe. How do we return? It has to have a system in place, have to have a means to handle the migrants, has to have a means to handle the refugees. Now, the Most High tells us what? To flee Babylon, run for your lives. That's what He said, right? I don't care what you say. You call it flee doctrine. I call it Bible. He says, flee, run for your lives. Why? Because the place where you're at is being judged. So we're going to have to leave. Every single thing is aligning for our exodus. I can't give you no date and time, but everything is aligning. I think it's near personally. That's just my opinion. That's Yakoba's opinion. I ain't prophesying. I ain't no prophet. I think it's close. Now, that's relative. So we have a Kufa Adu and an AU talking about we need reparations. We need to handle this. We have the Caribbean nations asking for reparations. We need our money back. We need our reparations from Britain. Do you think all of this is coincidence? Or do you think that the nations know that they have to give us our reparations? Why is the CARICOM asking for reparations? Why is a Kufa-Adu and the AU asking for reparations? Why are some of the states in America and the cities in America offering reparations? Why is the United States government having consultations and talks about reparations? You know why? Because it has already been decided. It has already been decided. Just as the whole thing, as I stated, with the Global Compact for Migration was already decided. We didn't know nothing about it. We didn't know anything about the Global Compact for Migration, but it's been there and you see it happening now. It happened what? In an instant. It happened in an instant. UN chief calls for slavery reparations to overcome generations of discrimination. March 25th, Reuters. United Nations Chief Antonio Guterres called on Monday for reparations over the transatlantic trafficking of enslaved people as a way to tackle its legacy in today's society, including systemic racism. From the 15th to the 19th century, at least 12.5 million Africans were kidnapped, forcibly transported by European ships and merchants, and sold into slavery. Those who survived the brutal voyage ended up toiling on plantations in the Americas, mostly in Brazil and the Caribbean, while others profited from their labor. In a statement to mark the UN International Day of Remembrance of the Victims of Slavery, Gutierrez said the past laid the foundations for a violent discrimination system based on white supremacy. This is the United Nations head. We call for reparatory justice frameworks to help overcome generations of exclusion and discrimination, Gutierrez said. In September, a UN report suggested countries should consider financial reparations to compensate for slavery. The idea of paying reparations or making other amends for slavery has a long history, but the movement has been gaining momentum worldwide. This is the movement that will signal, finally, can we say a banner? This is the movement that will signal, finally, the collective victory of humanity, of good over evil. Hilary Beckles, chair of the Reparations Commission of the Caribbean Community Political and Economic Union, CARICOM, said at the UN General Assembly. The CARICOM Reparations Commission was set up to seek reparations, including debt cancellations and support to tackle public health crises from former colonial powers such as the United Kingdom, France, and Portugal. The Repair Campaign, which is producing socioeconomic reparations plans for CARICOM nations, released a poll on Monday that showed 4 in 10 people in the United Kingdom agreed the Caribbean should receive financial compensation, while 3 in 5 agreed a formal apology was due. Vereen Shepherd, director of the Center for Reparations Research at the University of the West Indies, said it was time for Britain and other former and current colonial powers to own up to their responsibility. So we have this call for reparations by the leader of the United Nations, the current leader of the United Nations. Can we say president? And CARICOM want their money. Africa wants their money. We want our money, and everybody's talking reparations. Why are they talking now? Why didn't they talk this 20 and 30 years ago? Why? Because it has been decided already behind the scenes that we're getting paid. Don't get it twisted. Like I said, you didn't know about the global compact of migration. Most people don't know that this plan is in place. So as I read, they stated that a plan has been put in place. Now, it's not law. It's not law, but here's the thing. This is wild, right? When you pay attention to the global international order. Laws are never put in place with the global international order. Have you noticed that? I mean, I'm not talking about the laws that's between nations and how they interact with each other. I'm talking about laws that affect the, humankind, the citizens of the world, so to speak. You know why? Because as I read, people who are part of the United Nations, they share in the distribution of money. They share in the distribution of goods. They share in handling all of the burdens of the United Nations. So what happens is the United Nations gives a request. Some nations decide they're going to go along with it, and some decide they're not. Good example, Global Compact for Migration. Okay, Global Compact for Migrations. Nobody passed the law. Nobody signed on the paper, we're going to take in these refugees and these migrants. But it's been happening world over for years. We just didn't know what was happening. Migrants was coming from Africa going to Europe. Migrants was coming from Africa going to Australia. Migrants was coming from Africa going to Sweden. Migrants are now coming to the United States, but no law has been passed that they said our nation agreed to this. Why? Because the UN said it. Can we say the king? The UN said it, and they got to perform it. Now, they could resist. But the rule is, and I believe it's, where the common man doesn't know what the rules are. The rule is, and you can look by the way they act, that they have to do it. Because this is coming from the world order. Now, sometimes you got some nations like the U.S. who they say we're not going to do it, and guess what? It gets postponed, it gets pushed back, and then they handle it a little later, or till another administration that says, okay, well, we're going to do this part of it, and then the other administration comes and say we'll do the other part of it. But it's a loosely agreed upon framework, and so Gutierrez says reparations should be paid. We getting paid. Can y'all hear me, Gentiles, who say we ain't getting reparations? Why I gotta pay for my ancestors? I ain't do nothing. We getting paid. Ain't nothing you can do about it. I think some of y'all smart enough to see what I'm talking about. I'm talking to the Gentiles. I think some of y'all smart enough to see what I'm talking about. It's going to happen. You can't stop it. It's already in play. Isaiah 65, 17 and 25. See, I will create new heavens and a new earth. All right. I want to add this to you before I go on. When I used to read this scripture, I thought this was the same new heaven and the same new earth, right? As we see in the book of Revelation. That's not the case. That's not the case. And maybe this is a translation issue, but you'll see what I'm talking about as I go. This new heaven and the new earth right here is a new order, a new creation for Israel, right? You got a new people, born again, Ezekiel 37, and they're going to have a new heaven on earth. It's not Revelation, and I'm going to show you why it's not Revelation. It's not the new heaven coming down from above. It's not the bride adorned, but I'll show you that. So, see, I will create new heavens and a new earth. The former things will not be remembered, nor will they come to mind. So the stuff that you went through, you're going to forget. Now, I'm going to show you why this has nothing to do with the eternal state, and this is with a temporal state. But be glad and rejoice forever in what I will create. For I will create Jerusalem to be a delight and its people a joy. So he's going to create Jerusalem to be a delight and its people a joy. So this is not a new heaven. This is not Jerusalem coming out of heaven. Okay, I'm going to make my case. I know some of y'all disagree right now. Just take your time. I will rejoice over Jerusalem and take delight in my people. The sound of weeping and crying will be heard no more in thee, or no more. All right, so no more weeping and crying, right? This is the old Jerusalem. This is the existing one on this earth. It's not the new one that comes down, and I'm going to show you. Never again will there be in it an infant who lives but a few days, or an old man who does not live out his years. The one who dies at 100 will be thought a mere child. Now, people die in this Jerusalem, so this is a temporal Jerusalem. This is not the immortal Jerusalem. This is not the eternal Jerusalem, because people die. They live longer, but they die in this Jerusalem. The one who fails to reach 100 will be considered accursed. They will build houses. Now, pay attention to this. This is very important. This is awesome. I'm telling you, the Most High is so great. They will build houses and dwell in them. They will plant vineyards and eat their fruit. No longer will they buy houses and others live in them, or plant and others eat. Okay, pause right here for a second. Let's pause. I want to go here to Revelation first, just to show you that this isn't this not the New Jerusalem in the book of Revelation. Revelation 21, 1 through 4. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there was no longer any sea. I saw the holy city, the New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from Yahuwah, prepared as a bride beautifully dressed for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, look, Yahuwah's dwelling place is now among the people, and he will dwell with them. They will be his people, and Yahuwah himself will be with them and be their Elohim. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death. Okay, so this Jerusalem that comes from heaven, there's no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. So this Jerusalem has no more death. But the Jerusalem here in Isaiah 65 says that the one who dies at 100 will be thought a mere child. So in this Jerusalem, which is the real Jerusalem on earth, the modern, the temporal Jerusalem, let's say, you still gonna die, just that you gonna live longer. The Most High is going to extend our lives. For as the days of a tree, so will the days of my people, my chosen ones, will long enjoy the work of their hands. So they're going to enjoy the work of their hands, right? They will not labor in vain, right? Nor will they bear children doomed to misfortune, right? For they will be a people blessed by Yahuwah. What? Blessed. A people blessed by Yahuwah. They and their descendants will with them. Before they call, I will answer. While they are still speaking, I will hear. The wolf and the lamb will feed together, and the lion will eat straw like an ox, and dust will be the serpent's food. They will neither harm nor destroy on all my holy mountain, says Yahuwah. So, key things to take note of. They will build houses and dwell in them. They will plant vineyards and eat their fruit. No longer will they build houses and others live in them, or plant and others eat. The work of their hands, right? They will not labor in vain, nor will they bear children doomed to misfortune. All right. So what are we talking about here, right? The Deuteronomy 28 curses. You will be pledged to be married to a woman, but another will take her and rape her. You will build a house, but you will not live in it. You will plant a vineyard, but you will not even begin to enjoy its fruits. Your ox will be slaughtered before your eyes, but you will eat none of it. Your donkey will be forcibly taken from you and will be returned. Your sheep will be given to your enemies, and no one will rescue them. Your sheep. Your sons and daughters will be given to another nation. What? Your sons and daughters will be given to another nation, and you will wear out your eyes watching for them after day, powerless to lift a hand. A people that you do not know will eat what your land produced, and you will have nothing but cruel oppression all your days. So, what are we seeing here in Isaiah 65? The reverse of the curse. They will build houses and you will dwell in them. See, part of the curse is that we wouldn't. They will plant vineyards and eat their fruit. Part of the curse was we wouldn't eat our fruit, even though we plant the vineyards. No longer will they build houses and others live in them, or plant and others eat. See, this is the curses being removed, right? The work of their hands, they will not labor in vain. Part of the curses was that we would labor in vain. Nor will they bear children doomed to misfortune, right? Others will take your children from you, right? So now your children are not doomed. So these are the curses. Now, what the Bible's saying is that the curses are being removed and the blessings are being added. If you will obey Yahuwah your Elohim and carefully follow all his commands I give you today, Yahuwah your Elohim will set you high above all nations. See, we're going back to the land and we're going to rule. He's going to set us high on all nations. The blessings are coming back. All these blessings will come on you and accompany you if you obey Yahuwah your Elohim. You will be blessed in the city and blessed in the country. The fruit of your womb will be blessed instead of cursed and going into captivity, right? And the crops of your land and the young of your livestock, the calves of your herds and the lambs of your livestock, right? Everything is blessed. When we go back, we're blessed. Can we say bless? Come on, y'all. Bless, bless, bless. We're blessed in the city. We're blessed in the field. We're blessed when we come and when we go. I can't sing, but anyway, y'all get it. Your basket and your kneading dough will be blessed. You will be blessed when you come in and blessed when you go out. Yahuwah will grant that the enemies who rise up against you will be defeated before you. They will come at you from one direction, but flee from you in seven. Yahuwah will send a blessing on your barns and on everything you put your hand to. Yahuwah, your Elohim, will bless you in the land he is giving you. Yahuwah will establish you as his holy people, as he promised you on oath. If you keep the commandments of Yahuwah, your Elohim, and walk in obedience to him, then all the peoples of the earth will see that you are called by the name of Yahuwah, and they will fear you. Yahuwah will grant you abundant prosperity in the fruit of your womb, the young of your livestock, and the crops of your ground in the land he swore to your ancestors to give you. Yahuwah will open the heavens, the storehouse of his bounty, to send rain on your land in season, and to bless all the work of your hand. You will lend to many nations, but you will borrow from none. Yahuwah will make you the head, not the tail. If you pay attention to the commands of Yahuwah your Elohim that I give you this day and carefully follow them, you will always be at the top, never at the bottom. Do not turn aside from any of the commands I give you today, to the right or to the left, following other gods and serving them. So we failed the test in the past, right? But we're being restored. The nation is being brought back to life. Ezekiel chapter 37, we're going to be brought back to the land by the United Nations and the world governmental system, and by the 10 horn kingdoms, right? They're going to take over. They're going to be running hell on them Gentile nations. But remember, they partially strong, partly weak. We're going to be running our own thing. And we get to go back, and we live long. I sure hope that happens during my generations, because the Most High says, if a man, if he don't live 100 or whatever, he young. If he died at 100, yeah. If he died at 100, he young. So we might be living up to 900 again. Who knows? That would be great. Because we had a lot taken from us. I mean, they literally destroyed us as a people. They destroyed our minds. They destroyed our health. They destroyed our families. They destroy us today, currently. But the Most High says, when we get back to that land, we're going to live longer. We're going to be healthy. Everything we plant, we're going to eat. They're not going to be taking our gold anymore. Come on now, Ibrahim. They ain't going to be taking our uranium anymore. They ain't going to be taking our resources anymore. The nation's going to be bringing us goods. Why? Because they need our resources. They're going to be bringing us some money, some cash, whatever it is, some Bitcoins, however the transaction is going to occur. So we have all these things happening, right? All aligned with the prophecies of the Bible. Whether or not you believe is flea doctrine. All I can say is this. Your brother Yakoba is excited. Oh, yes. I am excited because I see us going home. I don't care what nobody say. I see us going home. And to put the icing on the cake, if you know the prophecies, if you know Jeremiah 50:51, if you know Revelation, everything is aligned. Everything is aligned. A breath away from the use of nuclear weapons by Russia, advisor Putin. First, a test nuclear mushroom explosion, and then their normal use. Also activate the intercontinental strategic weapons. Russia against the West, so against the U.S. Russia is a breath away from the use of tactical nuclear weapons after the rapid escalation in its relations with NATO. Putin's advisor, Dmitry Suslov, suggested first a test nuclear explosion with the mushroom broadcast live around the world through the media. And then if NATO does not come to its senses, normal use of tactical nuclear weapons. In other words, we're going to light this fire and we're going to set up the smoke, that mushroom cloud. And if that don't get you the attention, you can't make this stuff up. If that don't get your attention, then we're going to have to handle business. I'm going to put it that way. Deputy Suslov, member of the Russian Foreign and Defense Policy Council, Deputy Director of Global Economy and International Policy at the Moscow Higher School of Economics and Valdai Club expert, said the following. The West does not believe in the seriousness of the Russian nuclear deterrent and allows itself to cross its borders one after another. What can Russia do but clearly show how determined it is? Look, if you discern people, see, I got discernment. I can discern people. That's why I tell you, some people y'all be listening to and following, you might want to look at them twice, right? I can discern people. One thing I know about Putin, and I think y'all can too, some of y'all, Putin don't bluff. Putin don't bluff. See, I'm that way. If I told you I'm going to do it, you cross these lines, I'm not going to hold back. I'm going to do it. I'm a man of my word. I think Putin's that way. That's just my opinion. I ain't a fan of neither side. I don't trust no white man. Don't get it twisted. I don't trust him. Don't get it twisted. But I do know somebody who don't play. I recognize the kind of man that don't bluff. Putin don't bluff. All indications are that the United States and some of its allies will soon allow Ukraine to use Western weapons, including long-range missiles, to attack targets within Russia's internationally recognized borders, that is, those parts of Russia that already from the maiden in Kiev in 2014, they were Russians. In America, the New York Times recently reported supporters of the idea include Secretary of State Antony Blinken, most Republicans in Congress, and many members of the foreign policy establishment. Also present was Victoria Nuland, who recently resigned as Undersecretary of State. In Europe, Poland, Baltic states, Germany's main opposition, CDU, CSU, and some Western European officials, including British Foreign Secretary David Cameron, support the measure. Recently, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg made a similar call, but he would not have made such a statement if the issue had not already been discussed at a practical level and received significant support from Washington. It has already reached a point where the issue is being discussed at the level of the heads of the defense ministries of the EU members. Such a decision would take the conflict to a fundamentally different level, would mark the crossing of one of the clearest red lines in existence since February 24, 2022, and would mark the immediate entry of the United States and its NATO bloc into the war against Russia. The strikes would be carried out based on coordinates provided by Western intelligence services. NATO at war with Russia. Decisions about these strikes will be made by Western military officials. The media have repeatedly reported confessions from Ukrainian military officials that any use of Western missiles and coordinated in advance by Western military advisors, and even the button will likely be pushed directly by Western military officials. It is no coincidence that German Chancellor Olaf Scholz justifies his reluctance to deploy Taurus missiles by saying that they should be operated not by Ukrainians, but by German military personnel. We going to war. We in war, let's put it that way, but it's about to get hot. The fuse is lit, but everything I would expect is in place. So the next thing I expect to happen, this is just my opinion, if it don't happen, I'm not a prophet, is this internal strife with the whole Trump thing. Some kind of incident, whether it be a false flag or not, with the Trump supporters is going to kick off, probably hitting and attacking our people to try to draw us into some internal conflict to kick off a civil war, which is going to bring in the military, which is going to bring in martial law, which is going to bring in oppression of us because, you know, Texas, Louisiana, and Florida and these southern states have already passed laws to discriminate against us, and they can shoot us and do anything without repercussions. So the world, just like you see happening with Gaza, the world going to be saying, America doing it to the Negroes now. America's doing it to the African Americans now. They done deleted a whole bunch of people in Gaza. Now they're deleting a whole bunch of people in the United States. And they, this going to give Russia and China and the world community the excuse to come in, right? To save us. And we get to leave. Because we're going to be what? Refugees. We're going to be what? Refugees. Can we say flea doctrine? I don't know what Bible you reading, but that's what I see. And based upon what's happening between Russia and NATO right now, I don't think we have too much longer. I think we about to hop on them planes, trains, and automobiles. I don't know how we getting the heck out, but I think we leaving. Hashtag ain't no 400-year prophecy. Go get your shirt. GetGivingFall.com. Because see, a lot of people think all of this stuff is just, gonna disappear and we go back to normal. They still think that. Half of us can't afford food. Half of us can't afford rent. Half of us can barely keep our head above water. But hey, all things remain the same. Half of us trying to see how we not gonna disappear because all we can afford is some bad food and some unclean water and some unclean air. I'm just saying why they want you to take and eat your lollipops. Good luck surviving here. I'm planning an exodus. Oh yeah, I'm waiting on the Most High. I'm not going up by myself because he never told me to leave. He didn't. See, the difference between me and some of y'all, I know that the Most High told some of y'all to leave. Makes sense. Just like the Most High sent Caleb and some of the spies into the promised land before we went home. That's what I think. I think the Most High sent some of our people over there like the dry bones to be some Calebs and scout out the land and prepare our way and build some relationships. You could go to giftgivingforall.com right there. Get your hoodies and your hats and your mug. But I'm going to say this. It's sort of like some of the Gentiles are saying. You best pray that what we think going to happen don't happen. Now, to me, I'm not praying it. I mean, be honest with you, I don't want nobody to die, right? I don't want nobody to suffer, especially our people. But this thing here, this whore, she got to end. The Satanism, the Luciferianism, the alphabetism, the fuddy-duddy-isms, all that stuff got to go. It has to go. Our children can't live in this. We can't live in it. And they're taking away your means to make money. And they say by 2050, you're going to have zero income growth. Good luck staying here, people who love Babylon. Good luck staying here, people who think we're born and raised and that America's our land. Good luck staying here. When they burning down and killing millions and millions of chicken for some supposed disease. Good luck staying here while they shutting down 400 to 600 to 1,000 jobs and stores around the country. Good luck staying here because I'm wondering how you're going to survive. Because they're firing people like crazy. By Christmas time, you probably have another 10, 20,000 people around the country unemployed. And you probably won't be able to go to many places like you do now to get your smoothies and your shoes and your clothing because they're shutting down. You probably won't be able to go to many places to get your medicine because they shutting down. I'm just saying, maybe I'm just half empty, and a lot of times I am. But you ain't got much options. Let the people keep whispering in your ears that all things gonna stay the same and that Till Ministries is teaching the flea doctrine. Good luck with that. Let's see how you handle the next 6 months. Yeah, I say 6 months. I ain't gonna tell you what's gonna happen in the next 6 months, but let's see how you handle the next 6 months. You best prepare. You best have a little extra money in your pocket, a little extra food and water, so you can survive the transition. And just let you know, just in case you do become a refugee, take some of them canned goods you got and put in your go bag with an opener. Because remember what happened with them Ukrainians and them Africans trying to leave Ukraine. They couldn't get on the train too fast. They couldn't get out the country too easy. And they like, we ain't got nothing to eat. We hungry. You best keep a few of them canned goods in your to-go bag so you don't be hungry. And some water bottles, even if it's plastic, even though I don't like those. I don't drink from plastic bottle waters. I'm going to have to carry my Berkey water filter with me. It's big, though, but at least the travel one. I'm going to carry that Berkey water filter on my back. I ain't going nowhere without my Berkey. But that's all I got, fam. If y'all want to support us, you can by becoming a patron. You can also give Cash App $TOTW7101. $TOTW7101. And understand this. Everything I'm seeing, like I say, I got a good track record now. It'd be like if I didn't have a good track record. I got a good track record. Everything I'm seeing, like I said, I can't get no timeline, but everything I'm seeing, we out. I don't know what else to tell you. I can't give you a time frame, 6 months to a year, 2. I don't know. Maybe it's gonna be in 2030. Who knows? But if we gotta be here till 2030, it's gonna be hell on earth. Because that Deagle report says this country about to lose about 200 million people. And that Deagle report look like it's right on time. So, fam, looking forward to y'all being out there in the wilderness with me. And y'all get to see who your Cobra is by the grace of Yahuwah. That I don't, disappear. Maybe the Most High, by his grace, allow us to all make it out alive. But it's about to go down, in my opinion. Few months. If you're lucky, hey, you might have a few extra years, but I don't see it. I think all hell about to break loose. But hey, like I say, I ain't no prophet. I ain't predicting nothing. I gotta say that because people gonna be putting that in my mouth. So that's all I got, fam. Love y'all with the love of the Messiah. If you like this, please give me a like. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And also share the video. And stop listening to people who are telling you what the Bible clearly says it's going to happen. They're telling you it's not going to happen. Stop listening to people. If the Bible is clear on it, if the Bible says we're going to flee, believe the Bible. I mean, it's clear. Now, whether or not you're going to flee, that's your business. But let's be honest with the scriptures. If the Bible says you're going to flee, then say, yeah, it says that. You might not agree with it. And I ain't telling you to leave. Well, where are we going to go, Jacobo? I don't care. I'm just a teacher. I'm just telling you what the Bible says. I'm telling you to be prepared because everybody else telling you all things remain the same. Peace and blessings, Israel. Your captivity is ending. Love you with the love of the Messiah. And please support the Dry Bones Project.